and we obviously also try and certify. I'm going to try and share the full screen now because I think it's going to work. And within all three of these, we really try and advocate for what the benefits of a green building might be, and those might differ to different users or across the value chain. So we know that green buildings have a positive environmental impact, but it's very important that they are beneficial to the building users, the actual humans who live and play and work inside the buildings. And then there's also a strong business case for green buildings, which I will go into. And so today I'm just going to unpack some trends that I think are worth sharing. There were 5 that I've extracted. These don't represent all of the trends within green buildings per se, but they do represent the 5 that I think are worth sharing. They're informed both by global trends and patterns and themes that are coming through, but also by our local scene. And then I'm also going to unpack some interiors related guidance around greening interiors that we are typically involved with. So let's go into our 5 trends. Just going over here. Certified buildings in South Africa. For those of you who are not aware, we have certified over 740 projects in South Africa. This has been going for the last 10 years. We have a confident and well-experienced green building movement. This does operate primarily within the office commercial space, but increasingly we are seeing certifications within the residential space, within industrial. We've certified public buildings, and we are increasingly also looking at student accommodation. So just to make sure that the language and the jargon and the terminology, that we're all on the same page, if you've seen any of these terms, these are the types of brands that would be associated with certification. So there's the Green Star brand. We've also got EWP that just looks at offices. There's EDGE, and then there's also Net Zero. I'm not going to go into the detail around this. Happy to have a conversation with anybody after this if you would like more detail. So what does a green building look like? Those 740 projects. So these are just a few slides. I've taken 5 projects. They obviously don't reflect all of the buildings, but this is the Sisonke Office District in KZN, which is really a great building because it's very low tech. They've used fabulous passive design strategies, and as you can see, they've got a great roof garden which provides thermal mass. Also a public sector building, another public sector building. This is the council chambers up in Johannesburg that got a PEB rating, a 5-star. A key focus here on acoustics, because this is obviously where a lot of decision making by the ward councillors and by the councillors are made. I think what was also nice about it is the element of beauty. This is an existing building. This is Mutual Park down in Cape Town, where there's a significant PV array. Significantly, they've also got a lot of wastewater treatment, including black water treatment on site, which is a significant intervention for an existing office park in South Africa, and really contributes to one of our key environmental concerns that we're facing as a water-stressed country. This is another water building that I wanted to highlight, and this is the district, and this actually achieved a net zero water rating, and so that means that they recycle a lot of their basement sump water that can then be reused to achieve a net zero water status. Another interesting building that achieved 6 stars, and that's a highlight recently, and some of you might be aware of it, you might have driven past it at the waterfront, is the Ridge. And this building notably used CLT timber that had a structural function within the facade, and this is a significant first for a green building in South Africa, when one considers upfront embodied carbon associated with the materials that one needs to actually make a building. So another big trend is that of net zero buildings. Net zero carbon has captured the imagination, globally and locally. And for those of you who are not aware, as a movement in terms of buildings, we are moving to a pathway where we want all of our new projects to be designed to be net zero carbon by 2030. But we are aiming that by 2050, all of our buildings, including our existing stock, where major refurbs and retrofits would be considered, are also operating at net zero carbon. So those are two very significant targets that should be on every built environment's radar in terms of the kind of projects that you're contributing towards. The GBCSA was instrumental in supporting a global understanding around what net zero carbon is, and joined many other green building councils across the world. And we support and provide a framework for any project either to pursue net zero carbon, net zero water, net zero waste, or net zero ecology. And so just to clarify what this is, green buildings obviously want to understand how we can minimize our impact on the environment. Net zero buildings either want to neutralize or positively redress the impact that they leave on the earth. So it is quite a fundamental shift in how we are delivering green buildings. An important part of that has been an understanding that we don't only have to worry about carbon operationally, i.e. the carbon associated with the lights that are on and all the computers that are being used, but actually we have to look at carbon across the whole life cycle of a building, i.e. also looking at both the upfront embodied carbon, but then the embodied carbon throughout the rest of the building's life cycle. And we have set targets, as a global movement for that, which we are trying to translate into the South African market. That has proven slightly challenging, but we do have some exciting work in that space. So just for those of you who maybe are not familiar with, different carbon concepts at different stages in a building's life cycle, typically net zero carbon would speak to, just that operational phase, but the whole life carbon vision speaks to the entire life cycle that is depicted on the slide in front of you. And this is important because with time, as our grid decarbonizes, and understanding that in South Africa we obviously still have a very dirty grid, the relative proportion of operational carbon, the parts that you see in pink there, will diminish, i.e. the transition from the left to the right hand side. So this is a UK-based reference, but it will be equally applicable to South Africa in time. We're obviously not there yet. A key trend, obviously, and this has been a trend for some time, but there's been, renewed attention and focus on it with COVID, is that of buildings and green buildings that contribute to the health and well-being of its users. This has been well documented, well researched, and obviously this is where interior designers have a significant role to play in terms of the finishes and the feel and the fit-out elements that are included with any space and how they contribute to health and well-being. If you need some guidance on this, or this is something you want to discuss with the client, keep in mind that the World Green Building Council has recently published a health and well-being framework, and it's free, it's available, it's a great, easy to use kind of guide to start some conversations if you need. And we have also collaborated with Sutari to develop guidelines with a specific focus on safety in light of COVID and understanding, how you need to clean surfaces, what you need to think about air quality in order to mitigate against and minimize risk towards any public infections. So this is just an oversight of the framework. I'm not going to go into these details. I can send the link on the chat afterwards. So just a quick focus on the business case for green. I'm going to pose the question to you, what do you think it costs to go green? Because that is a question that our members have been asking ever since the Green Building Council started. We embarked on a collaboration with the University of Pretoria and the Association for QSs within South Africa to source primary data, local data, South African data, to understand what the cost for going green might be. Because when the green buildings first started, It was kind of a thumbsuck, oh, it's 10%, it's 20%, you know, but nobody really knew. And so the University of Pretoria actually conducts a research academic study at different periods once we've got enough data, and processes local primary data in this regard in order to answer this question for industry, for our market, for listeners like yourself, if you have clients who are asking, you know, well, what does it cost to go green? And so we've done this. It is limited to an office building sample, because that's obviously where the biggest sample is, where we can gather data. You can see the first results indicated that on average, green buildings were about 6% more expensive, and keeping in mind that this is only the capex premium. So this is the capital cost, you know, the budget associated with a new building. But with time, that has come down from 6%, and we're sitting at an average now. Well, it came down to about 3.15% for the latest results, but the average across the median is 3.6%. What is important to notice is, however, that you can also deliver buildings, green buildings, at a premium of 0.5%. And then keeping in mind that those maximums, you know, don't represent the majority, and they are the Rolls-Royces, the Ferraris of green buildings. So just, this is the scope. This is the range, and it depicts what is possible. But what it does show is that that premium has been steadily declining as the industry has matured. Once we could answer the question of, so what does a green building cost? It was about understanding, well, what are the long-term financial benefits associated with going green? And what does it mean from an investment perspective to understand the full life cycle cost associated with going green? So yes, sometimes you have a situation where you know, it might cost a bit more to go green, but how quickly are you paying that back? And when you take into account how you're actually going to be benefiting from some of those in terms of costs, how does that play off in the long run? So MSCI conducts an annual green property index where they look at the both capex and opex financial considerations of going green, to look at the full total return on investment associated with going green. What you see in front of you would be the last 5 years' results, and you can see via the green bar that for most years, certified green offices delivered a better total return on investment than non-certified offices. This was also limited, obviously, to prime and A-grade offices. When you average that out over 5 years, and keeping in mind that that's, you know, investors would be looking at longer timeframes, such as 5 years, you can see the return on investment associated with certified green offices really is significantly better than the 4.7 of the non-certified green offices. And so the key takeaways from this really, I mean, the property sector right now, and particularly with COVID, and you know, those are the results that you can see towards the end of the study, or in the 5th year. The market was not performing well, but green certified offices did outperform their non-certified counterparts, and I think that often speaks also to a better quality building, because the vacancy rates were also lower, and that they were deemed less risky, particularly in a crisis, and how that translates into financial value. So let's chat a little bit about green interiors. I appreciate that my time is almost up. You know, I mean, I think interiors are always quite challenging, because you're dealing material, in terms of materiality, you're dealing with many moving parts, and there are a multitude of layers and supply chain considerations that anybody who is involved in specifying something within a fit out needs to consider. And so there are all these questions of, well, you know, who actually made it? What are the components, you know, just to try and evaluate what has gone into it. How was it made? Where was it made? You know, can I source it locally? How is it going to contribute to health and well-being of the building users? The GBCSA does offer the ability to rate an interior fit out via one of our Green Star tools. It's called Green Star Interiors fit out. Some of you might be familiar with it on the call. I'm not going to unpack this tool in any detail in today's conversation. I'm going to focus on two sectors, on indoor environmental quality, which is the category that looks at health and well-being, and then also going to chat to the materials category, because I think that that's often where interior designers have the biggest role to play, and certainly in, within my experience in the private sector, that's where I engage most with interior designers. If you would like to know more about this tool, we do have training available, and I'm happy to put you in contact with colleagues who can facilitate that. So let's focus a little bit on the indoor environmental quality category. And just, yeah, so we've had about 40 projects in South Africa that have been rated with the interiors tool. So out of the 740 certifications, 40 of those would be interiors related. So on the slide here is an overview of the types of things that would be considered. You would consider whether or not the fit out has been considered from an acoustic quality perspective. Have you, from a lighting perspective, how can you optimize, the artificial lighting so that it is comfortable for the users, depending on what the, function of the building is. Is the building comfortable from a thermal perspective? That's obviously very important. What is the quality of air that you're providing? Ergonomically, what has been considered? Have you optimized the amount of indoor planting that can, be provided, taking operational, management considerations into account as well? There are multiple studies available online. We featured many of them at our conventions as speakers that have studied the impact of buildings and healthy green buildings on the cognitive functioning of staff or of building users. And there are also studies that then have translated that into productivity studies and productivity metrics for businesses and how that affects the bottom line for a company or for an organization. And so some of the things that you want to obviously consider is, the VOCs and the formaldehyde associated either with your carpets. These are toxic materials, and you want to try and minimize these because they are associated with certain health risks in humans. You also want to understand, are there contaminants in the air, and what are you doing to, you obviously want to get as much natural fresh air in, but you want to make sure that it's clean and that it has been appropriately purified. You want to limit the ways in which you can transmit any infectious diseases within particularly an office space. And then obviously mental health and how the design and access to biophilic kind of elements contributes to reducing and cushioning any mental health issues that building users might be faced with. So this is obviously, building can't solve every problem, but it's asking the question of, well, how does the building design and how does the fit out contribute to some of these issues, and how can it alleviate some of these issues? And then another key focus for interior designers always is specifying, it could be furniture, it's either, flooring products and paints and wall coverings. And so our tool looked at this quite specifically. And I was actually involved in the team at the time. I was on with the Green Building Council, with the consultancy team that developed these calculators. And so we, guiding principles had to be developed for how you specify and how you select certain materials, because I think, one of the challenge for interior designers is that you're bombarded with different options. Every supplier will tell you that they're green. I've read countless brochures and product specifications that bang on about how green they are, and it's not always clear as to how you can evaluate their greenness. And the issue with materials is that you're not dealing with one specific environmental impact issue. So it's not like energy or water that's got a very defined metric, and you understand the resource that you're dealing with. With materials, you're dealing with the whole life cycle. and that's a function of where the material is sourced, the raw materials that go into it, how is it actually manufactured, how is it transported and then assembled and processed, how can it be used in the building, and what kind of energy and improved water performance does it then contribute to, and then what happens at the end of its life. So I think just to clarify, if you've got our technical manual or if you've got any of the calculators, the kind of general approach that we've provided guidance to for industry from an interior fit out perspective when you deal with materials is, firstly, ask yourself, has this been verified by a third-party certification scheme? So this is an eco-label, keeping in mind that there's a difference between eco-labels and environmental product declarations. So we obviously want transparency, we want declaration, we want to understand, what went into products, but eco-labels then, in effect, take some of that information and actually rate it. And so we can rely on those service providers. The Green Building Council does not rate products. We don't rate systems or proprietary kind of technology. We set a performance benchmark for a building design level, and it's up to the design team then to demonstrate that they've reached that. So this is not a space that we particularly play in. We do acknowledge that locally the Eco Standard and Eco Specifier are two local service providers who can look at a product and give a specific rating. So if you haven't heard of them, I can also drop their details in the chat function if that's something that you're interested in pursuing further. But we appreciate that not every product is going to have a rating. So in the absence of that, what are the guiding principles? And we've got specific options available for, whether it be for flooring or whether it's for walling or whether it's for furniture, because there are obviously some different material issues to consider. But the calculator and the technical manual, are available, and you can go and have a look at it in a bit more detail, but it can, get quite technical. And obviously it's also a function of how much you're using in relation to the total flooring output associated with that building. So, in terms of guiding principles to bring sustainability into your design, if you don't want to, have a look at what's available in the interior fit out tool, the first question is always to ask, what is it made of? Ideally, you always want to make sure that your materials are recycled or repurposed. And if you're looking for a benchmark, something to aim for, always try and make sure that you're at least achieving a 40% recycled or reused content percentage. It's typically by weight of the product. So that's, just in terms of kinds of rules of thumbs to aim for if you're working on a project. And then ideally you always want to try and make sure that you optimize the amount of materials that are locally sourced, and you want to aim for between 400 to 1,000 kilometer radius. And you want to look at that across the life cycle of your product. So where the raw materials were mined, where it was manufactured, where it was assembled, take all of those into consideration. Then the second question that you want to ask is, how was it made? So, did you consider the factory conditions in terms of the environmental management procedures that went into making your product? Are they responsible? And so that would, speak to things like, are they energy efficient? Have they optimized their water efficiency? How is the factory and or the production facility dealing with waste? You also want to consider, whether or not your materials are natural, and it's not always to say that man-made products cannot be sustainable when they are potentially made from reused materials. And one thinks of polymers and plastics in that regard, but also, for example, like bamboo, where that it is a renewable material. And then, I think a key consideration is durability, and particularly within an interior fit-out perspective where there's a lot of churn, and that both speaks to both the fit-out but also the actual products that are being used. Is how long could this be used and how durable is it? Because even if it is taken out, could it be passed on so that it could be reused for a really long time? And then an important consideration, and this is something that's typically not considered, is, what happens to the product at the end of its life? So, I've mentioned reuse, and that's always the easy option, but does the supplier have a take-back scheme? When we were busy looking at this, there were certain suppliers that did offer that as an end-of-life opportunity for certain products. At the time, it was carpets. But, those are important considerations that kind of need to inform a purchasing or a procurement decision at the beginning, and not really at the end. If you would like to know more, like I said, we have some training. You can become a Green Star Interiors AP, and you can guide clients along this process. I'll pop the training requirements in the chat function. But I think that's it from me. I've got my email address there. You're welcome to drop me a line if you'd like to know a bit more. I hope that I've unpacked at a high level what some of the main green building trends are in South Africa, that that there's a strong green building movement. Like I said, we are always looking to collaborate and partner, and most importantly, share stories around leadership or innovation, or just trying something new, even if that includes making a mistake and if there's a lesson learned. So please do be in touch, and I'll stay on board for any questions. That's it for me. So thanks to everyone, and thank you, Johan and Nicole.
Thank you very much, Regina. Really appreciate the time. Next up will be Mark Bollinghouse from the supplier ITD, International Taps. Thank you. Good day, Mark.
Hi, Johan. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
That's better.
There we go. Thank you, Mark.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about my product. I'm Mark. I work for International Tap Distributors. We're an integrated supply chain with Italtile, and we basically source the products from various suppliers overseas, and we act as distributors or suppliers to Italtile. Today, I'd like to talk about three items or three partners we have. Firstly, the Tivoli taps, which we source from two different Italian factories. And then I'd like to talk about Idwal and Olma, which are also two Italian factories that we source products from. I'd like to get started off with the Tivoli product. Our Tivoli products are obviously JASBIC certified. That's the joint water or joint acceptance scheme for water installation components. We carry a 15-year guarantee on the product, on the Tivoli taps, and a 5-year guarantee on the cartridges. We also are South African product certified, service approved, and basically our products are really of a high standard, and they have a lot of features which support the sustainability of our environment. ITD and Tivoli and Italtile has partnered up with the Shark Project, the Sharkwise Foundation, for the preservation of sharks. And I haven't got a lot of time in this presentation to try and explain all the benefits. So I would urge all the participants today to go and have a look at Italtile's website to see what the products are about. I will add all the web addresses onto the mail, and so that everybody can have a look at it afterwards. The two Tivoli ranges I'd like to speak about are the Pella and the New Road ranges. These are products that are currently available at Italtile, which really have a lot of the features in, like water saving for 3 and 6 liters. Each tap is a standard aerated on the tap, which is a 3 or 6 liter per minute function. The taps also come with a double click mechanism. If you see in the photo here, the clicks, and on half click it's 3 liters, on full clicks it's at 6 liters, and this helps you to conserve water. Both the Pella and the New Road ranges are equipped with a cold start mechanism, which basically start the tap on cold, and if you need hot water, by moving at 50 or 90 degrees, you get a variation of hot water. This feature alone saves you about 1,000 Rand a year on electricity. And talk is cheap. A lot of the people go out and have to actually to get the sustainable products. They've actually got to source the products from a supplier. And I'd like to think that Italtile and our products and our partners should be the first stop to source your product for sustainability. Some more features of our one supplier, Nobly, on the Pella and the New Road ranges. As I said, the energy limiter, the cold start, which saves you electricity. The dynamic flow limiter, which you get with a fully open and half open. Then it's also got, in every cartridge, it's got a built-in anti-vibration device, which helps you when you open a tap not to get water hammer. You have a cold start function, or a temperature limiter, which you can actually set your range of motion on your tap. And this is particularly helpful in old age homes or for young children. For if someone opens a tap on a single lever cartridge, by opening the tap from left to right, the temperature variation is virtually immediate. And this could create a dangerous situation for young children or old people. So by setting your temperature limiter on it, you can actually protect your children and for any commercial space that you need to put it in. The Nobly cartridges are also made out of a eco plastic, which is a food grade plastic, so you don't get any penetration in the cartridge. You don't get seepage of materials in the plastic. The plastics and the cartridges are actually manufactured in the factory where they manufacture the taps. What's nice about this is it's not a generic fit. Nobly has gone to extensive lengths to try and give you a cartridge that is totally recyclable, made out of food grade plastic, and the melting temperature of this cartridge is more than 350 degrees. So your motion and your functionality of the cartridge is for the lifetime of the tap is actually smooth and without problems. The cartridge doesn't warp, in other words, if your water temperature is too high. And also the Nobly cartridge also come with a brass arm. 90% of all malfunctions in cartridges are on the brass arm, or on this arm here that the handle is attached to. And these arms actually require more than 70 Newton meters to break. So it's a really robust tap, and it's, in terms of longevity, it's probably one of the best out there in the market. I've included some more information that we can just read about after the presentation. All the knobbly taps are equipped with Neopearl aerators, and the flow rates on the Neopearl aerator is between 2 and 9 liters. The taps come standard with 3 and 6, but for any commercial application, we can adapt the aerator flow rate as per the client's request or needs. I would urge you to go to Knobbly's website to go and see the energy features and their waste management system. I think it's much more clear for you to see that this factory really is above the best in the world. The second partner I'd like to talk about is Idwal. Now, Idwal was specifically developed for people with limited functionality, commercial spaces, and we have a lot of different applications for hospitals and malls and commercial spaces. It will supply us, it's an Italian company, they supply us with electronic taps, self-closing, mechanical taps, thermostatic taps, pedal control units, and manual control units. We also get the tamper-proof products for places like prisons and stuff like that. And Idwal is a hydrosanit products. Sorry, my computer's dropping me here. We have a lot of products, and they supply solutions for specific purposes like kindergartens, hospitals, professional kitchens, and specific needs, reduced mobility. So these products are quite new, and they've been available through Italtile for a while. And again, much too many products to mention in this small short presentation. Our sensor taps are also the sensor taps from Idwal have flow restrictor limiters of up to 1.9 liters of water per minute. Idwal was one of the first companies in 2014 to get certified on the water label system for the new European rating because of their low energy consumption and technology that's been put into the taps. Yeah, I've just got a couple of pictures of some of the commercial sensor taps that are available with the flow rates of 1.9 liters per minute. Some more sensor taps. These sensor taps can be installed in commercial spaces as well as residential homes. There are variants available, one that's battery operated and one that's electricity operated. Then we have the Idwal push button or the time delay push button taps. These taps actually work on a 15 or an 8-second delay at 3-bar pressure, and they can be changed to demand taps where you actually, the moment you release tap, the water actually stops running. We also have the WCs, which function on the same principle of 8 or 15 seconds for commercial toilets and malls and stuff like that. We have the reduced mobility or mobility impaired assistant products. We have a variety of products. We have progressive cartridges which move from left to right that get progressively hot. We have the levers which you can actually lift up or use a knee or a severed arm to open, or the foot operated products which you connect to the water. So I would seriously urge everybody just to go and Google the Idwal website. I think a lot of the information about sustainability you'll probably get there. Much too much for this short presentation. I'm trying to give you as much information as what I can. Our next partner is Alma. This is an Italian factory. Everything is 100% produced in Italy. I've just got a bit of a picture of all the components. We have quite an array of components which we supply to the Italtile group. The nice thing about these products is they anticipate the trends, and they use 316 stainless steel to produce their product. This means it's 100% recyclable, and the claim to fame of these taps basically is the water saving on the unit. The water saving by using air infusion in the flow of the water reduces the flow rate to as much as 4.1 liters and 5 liters a minute. The nice thing about the Alma shower roses is this internal disc or cartridge inside the unit. So the cartridge and the water is actually touching the unit and the disc, and it's not touching the external part of the shower head. All of these components can be replaced, and the reason we can give a nice guarantee on this extended guarantee is because you can actually open up this product. You also have individualized water flow from the water source to the individual nipples on the shower, which gives you a 50% water saving on the product, and you can open it and inspect it and clean it out. All the elements are produced with sustainable materials that are in contact with the water. And our water touches the aesthetic part of the shower. As you can see in the diagram, the cartridge is completely individualized from the aesthetic part of the tap or the shower rose. Also, when they design the products, they pay particular attention to the reduction of energy consumption, and with a inner distribution system that's in the unit that allows the products to work at low or high pressures. The best operating pressure between 2 and 6 bar. Okay. I just want to go through. Yeah, I've just put a diagram that shows you the water efficiency on the Eco Air system in terms of water consumption. And the high flow units, actually, just like some opposition, the iBox units, they have their own built-in universal built-in box that can support 2 or 3 different functionalities on the bigger shower roses. They also use rubber to isolate the brass components, which reduces the vibration in the wall. And we have various trim sets. And horizontal or vertical installation. So I think that's about all from me, Johan. I have come to the end of the products that I wanted to discuss, but I would like to urge everybody. I'm not as articulate as the previous presenter, and I would really like to urge the guys to go and Google the website and to consider Italtile as the first option when you're sourcing products for your sustainability buildings and your green buildings.
Thank you very much, Mark. Appreciate the information as well. Next up is Melanie Ewing from Chapters Interior Design. Mel, we can't hear you. Mel,
hold on.
we can't hear you.
Yeah,
There we go.
I've on now. Let me just share my screen with you.
Perfect.
And let's go to view. Can everybody see? Johan? You're my quality controller.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So good evening, everybody. My name is Melanie. I run and own a company called Chapters Interiors, and our role and partnership with Italtile is we do all of the design training for our staff. And one of the modules that we've introduced recently to Italtile is a training session on biophilic design. So it's one of my very favorite topics to teach on. But what I wanted to do for this afternoon was something a little bit different for you. And I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into biophilic design. And I wanted to talk to you about biomimicry. Biomimicry is sustainable design inspired by nature. So over the last couple of decades, urbanization has increased exponentially, which has meant a decrease in our green spaces. And 90% of our time is spent indoors these days, which is not particularly healthy for us or our kids. So increasingly, we're looking at concepts like biophilic design to balance out the damage that's being done by urbanization and what's causing stress in our lives. We're creating spaces to try and recreate and enhance that creative and cognitive functionality that we humans have. So basically, biomimicry is innovation inspired by the natural processes of earth and nature. Animals have had millions of years to develop ingenious, innovative, energy-efficient solutions to the challenges of their world. And thanks to them, those animals, biomimicry allows human designers to adapt the same solutions to the built environment, but in a fraction of the time because the work has been done for us by them. So I just want to give you context of where biomimicry falls in. So the category of biophilic design, the field of biophilic design, you get three categories of it. Nature in the space, natural analogs, and nature of the space. I'm not going to go into those in too much detail. That's for another session. But we're sitting here this evening in natural analogs. Here it is, biomorphic forms and patterns. And natural analogs in design is when you bring representations of nature, whether they be false representations or real representations, into a living, working, or playing space. So biomimicry is one of the pillars of biophilic design, and it's inspired by the natural process of Earth, and that's what I wanted to talk to you about this afternoon. Just out of interest, the latest trends in biomimicry that are happening in the design world is lighting, and I'm going to touch on one of those this afternoon, the built environment, and we'll have a look at one of those examples, and then something called growable forms, and I'm going to get to those shortly. But biomimicry, we've been copying nature for a very long time. We've been doing this for millennia. So, for example, the wings for human flight were modeled on the wings of a butterfly and the flight of a pigeon, and that's how flight came about. Velcro came about as the copying of the natural technology of a burr. An inventor went out for a walk with his dog. The burrs got stuck to his coat and to his dog's coat. And he thought, I could do something with this. And he created Velcro. If only we all came up with that sort of $1 million idea. And there are three types of biomimicry. So that one is copying a shape and form in nature. And you'll see it in the examples I'm going to give you. Another is copying a biological process that happens in nature, like photosynthesis in a leaf. And the third is mimicking an ecosystem level. So like a building that's or a nature-inspired building. It's an actual system. Okay, so usually my role at Italtile is around education, and I've taken the liberty of giving myself permission that tonight I'm going to move away from education and I'm going to focus on inspiration. So I've got some really lovely examples of fantastic biomimicry that's happening around the world, lots of varying different countries. And the purpose of my presentation is hopefully to spark your creative spirit and inspire you to look for these sorts of representations of nature around us. So the first one I wanted to share with you is the Shanghai Natural History Museum. So the museum was designed by a company called Perkins & Will, and it features an interior cell wall that you can see in front of you there that's made out of glass and aluminium. So it's a 3-layered lattice web formation, and the wall visually represents and mimics the plant and animal cells by responding to and filtering the natural light and temperature around it, thus helping to regulate the interior conditions by natural means. And it is a sight to behold when you see something this size and is 3 stories high. So for the Natural History Museum, the use of biomimicry design was an appropriate way to reflect on and educate visitors about the process of nature and its environment, and it's an architectural masterpiece. Next one is biomimetic office building. So this is a 50 million pound, as in the currency, 20,000 square biomimetic office building in Zurich. And it provides a way of rethinking workplace architecture. And it was developed and conceptualized by an architect called Michael Pollan. So by looking to the natural forms, such as bone structures of birds, cuttlefish, mollusk shells, the building efficiently employs its structural elements, such as columns and floor slabs, and the interior temperatures are also controlled by things like shades that took inspiration from sensitive plants, like the mimosa, which you can see at the bottom of the building there, as well as the Venus flytrap, which we all know closes when something touches it. Those all naturally respond to external stimulation and changes in the environment, which means that the building is managing itself. Next up is something called breathing skins, and I watched a documentary on this a little while ago. And I think there's 2 projects. One was developed in Korea, I think. This one, the Breathing Skins project, was founded in Germany. And it's all about responsive architecture. So the breathing skin, which you can see so it's almost like a very thick perspex sheet, and it's got these breathing bags attached to it. And the breathing skin controls the atmosphere between the inside and the outside of the building. The technology used in breathing skins is inspired by organic skins, that the skin that we have. Our skin breathes naturally, as well as animals. And our skin responds to our environments by adjusting its permeability, its sweat level, it changes its surface, it gets goosebumps. So the building is doing exactly the same thing, and it's adjusting itself according to the surrounding temperatures and humidity levels. So this is the building when the skin on the building when it's deflated. This is the skin on the building when it's inflated. So it's responded to what's going on in the building. And in this way, the building and the interior actually breathes through this facade, the skin of the natural circulation system, which helps inflate or deflate to provide air circulation, lighting, and I'm going to show you what the lighting does now, and temperature and humidity control. And if you can find it online, there's a fascinating video showing you the skin in process as it's expanding and it's relaxing. So as it relaxes, what it does is it actually lets in more light. So you can see on the right-hand side here, it's quite dark. The skins are all expanded. As the skins deflate, and so all the light and the shadow is allowed in, which is part of biophilic design as well. Next up is growable forms. So this is a very interesting one. I will confess I find it slightly creepy. So this is called the Eric Klarenbeek Mycelium Project. And the project is working on a mix of spores, like you would get from a fungus or from a mushroom, and organic material to make 3D printable bioplastic strong enough for furniture. So very much like this chair, essentially, this is 3D printing with a fungus. So imagine all of those environmentally damaging materials that Georgina spoke about in the manufacturing of furniture. There's glues and there's VOCs and there's formaldehydes and all those nasty things that are bad for us and in our environment. Those are being done away with this process. And there's actually talk about this project, the Mycelium project. They're starting to look at growing through this process an entire house. And in this case, it's very much about form follows fungus, not form follows function. Speaking of furniture, we're starting to see biomimicry furniture come out of the woodwork. So the designer of this chair is a lady called Lillian van Dahl. And what she did was she looked at the plant cell structures for the ability to provide softness and flexibility, so when you see a leaf moving, as well as rigidity and structure, strength created by the cell walls. And this 3D printed chair is made of elongated sections that look, if you can see it here, elongated sections that look like the cells in a plant. And where on the structure there needs to be more rigidity and take some weight on it. So for example, the legs here, the structures are arranged vertically and they are that much stronger. And where there needs to be a little bit give or softness, they are arranged horizontally, as you can see there. So the cellular structure also eliminates the use of foam in furniture manufacturing. And foam is a environmentally very harmful product. So being able to do away with that kind of material in the production of furniture is awesome. So I need to find my mouse. Okay, this one fascinates me. So this is called the vertebra staircase. So this staircase takes its inspiration and form from an extremely unexpected source. You would think it would be sort of an Addams Family type of environment. It's not. It takes its source, its inspiration from the spine of a whale. And it was designed by a gentleman called Andrew McConnell. So if you look closely at each piece, you'll see that the biomorphic design makes sense because each section, you can see here on the middle one, each module that is then clipped together. Each section is interlocked with its adjacent pieces to create a continuous and rigid structure, giving you a safe and secure structure to walk on. And just like the whale spine, the staircase makes use of that central structure, the structural support extending through each piece, and the tread of each stair actually sticks out from that. The result is this slightly creepy, breathtaking staircase. It's an absolute masterpiece that would be a almost art talking piece in any type of space. And it just seems to float very effortlessly like a whale does. Carpeting. So it's called the Let It Be carpet tile. So the hexagon structure that you find in beehives has been recognized for its stability and efficiency throughout human history. And you see it in a lot of interior and architectural work. So here on this carpet tile, the structure has been utilized by a carpet tile company called Interface as a biometric design that reflects the perfection of imperfection in nature. So there are a lot of imperfections in nature, but it just works. And just like the honeycombs, these carpets are assembled by individual units, and the randomness of the patterns reflects the imperfection in nature and allows to reduce waste and more sustainable design, because I can put the carpet together almost haphazardly and I'm not wasting as much material as I normally would be. The same company, Interface, went further and created something called a Tactile, which is a line of glue-free carpet tiles, which is able to stick to any surface by the millions of tiny hairs on its feet. So it's an adhesive-free product, and in the elimination of its gluing process, the glue would be very toxic. You can often smell it in a new office environment. The elimination of that makes this product more sustainable and creates less waste than you would have with an adhesive tile. And where they got their inspiration from was from the feet of a gecko, who have hundreds and millions of tiny little hairs that allows them to stick on ceilings, for example, and then actually pull their feet off and walk quite easily. So great example of biomimicry there. Speaking of tiles, there's the Indus tile, which means the living tile. This is an algae tile that purifies water. So it's part of the Biointegrated Design Lab Studio project at the UK's Bartlett Studio, a School of Architecture. It's a fan-shaped tile that is both very, very cleverly using biomimicry and microalgae in its design. So the shape, you can see here it laid out vertically. The shape and veins of each tile, which represent a leaf, allows water to travel through it like it would through a plant. So it mimics that plant processing of water. Then, just to add that little bit extra cleverness to it, each tile contains a preparation of microalgae. And what that microalgae does is it acts as a filter that purifies any contaminated water flowing down the tiles. It's mimicking a natural process called bioremediation, which is essentially breaking down environmental pollutants and cleaning the water. So very, very clever tile project there. This is a very interesting one. You get climatology smart veneers. And again, if you are able to find this video online, it's fascinating to watch. This was developed by an internationally recognized designer called Elaine Guy-Yan Ling. And it was inspired by nature's invisible energy. And what this does is it looks at the structures of various plant species to mimic how they adapt to their natural surroundings. So you know how you see the plant move and turn towards the sun, or the sunflowers follow the sun. Those are the processes that she studied and mimicked. So these veneers are made of fabric, reactive dyes, and reflective surfaces. And they're very, very smart textile veneers. They can be used to cover any surface, or even used as an art piece. They're responsive to light, temperature, humidity of their surrounding environments, and so they've become more resilient and have a longer lifespan, and they dance. So when you see the video, you actually see the pieces of the veneer moving as the environment's humidity goes up, the position of the sun changes. And Elaine is the founder of a very interesting place called the Fabric Lab, which is bringing together textiles, the tradition of textiles, AI, electronics, biomimicry, the way forward, interiors and installations. She's a very interesting lady to follow. This one is a project called Ambio, and this was developed by a designer called Teresa van Dongen. And the Ambio light represents bioluminescent microorganisms to generate light in an airtight glass tube filled with a liquid that acts as seawater for those organisms. So the microorganisms that are in this tube were originally found on the surface skin of octopi. And they managed to source some of the microorganisms, and they've replicated them in the lab, and they're now using them in this Ambio project. And the designer is a very interesting lady because she originally did a degree in biology, and then she did a degree in industrial design, and she's managed to bring the two together. And this was an award-winning project that she submitted. So what happens is the soft blue light is generated each time the light fixture moves. So if you touch it lightly, or it moves in the wind, because what happens is the liquid inside the tube mimics the movement of the waves in the ocean. So not only does this design look to nature for inspiration, but it also is using nature itself as a source of the energy to create light. So these days, you can find examples of biomimicry in a variety of places and in very many different forms. It started a lot in clothing and industry, and it's moving its way into the interior design world. So think of those speed trains in Japan. You can see it here up at the top. That shape at the front of the train was inspired by the kingfisher, and when it dives into the water, the perfect shape that allows it to dive through water like it does. The Mercedes-Benz Bionic concept car, which you can see in the middle, for all the car fundies, no comments on the actual looks and style of the car, but that car was inspired by the yellow boxfish. And then a very, very clever one, which has been gaining a lot of traction in the last couple of years, is antibacterial material inspired by shark skin. And they originally started using it in swimsuits and diving suits. But now it is also being used in places like door handles in hospitals and surfaces in hospitals, because they've discovered that bacteria does not like to stick to the texture of the surface of a something like shark skin. So we forget that we as humans can also be a source of inspiration for biomimicry. So, for example, for those car fundies out there, Audi, the vehicle manufacturer Audi, is looking at a concept car that's based on the way the proteins in our bodies are transported and utilized by our cells. So we, as human beings, we've come so far and we've learned so much from the natural world around us that we're starting to look inwards as well. And while we still have a really long way to go as human beings and sustainability and global warming, we're definitely heading in the right direction with things like biomimic design. So that's all that I have. I hope I made it in my time. That's all I have for you this evening. Thank you very much for your time. I hope I inspired you. There's my email address on the screen in front of you if anybody would like to get in touch with me and if you have any questions. And that's me. Thank you, Johan and Nicole.
Thank you, Melanie. That was absolutely amazing and very inspiring, I must admit. And last but not least, Gary from Ceramic Industries.
Yeah, Johan, good afternoon, everyone. You clearly haven't made it very easy for me after these 3 presentations we've just seen. But just, thank you to Johan, to Nicole, to Melanie, to Mark, Georgina for what's been shared so far. I'm going to share a little bit about what we're doing at Ceramic Industries and probably the wider group to just let everybody knows what's going on at Ceramic Industries and the wider Italtile group. Just checking though, can everybody see my slides?
Not yet.
Not yet?
No.
Okay, just hold on a second. Let's see. It wasn't sharing. There, we on
There
yet?
we go.
Can everyone see?
Yep,
There we
it's
go.
coming up.
Okay.
No, now
Yes.
it's your screen. Now it's the slides, but it's in presenter mode.
Yeah, I'll stop the presenter mode. I might need to do it a different way. It was working right in the beginning.
No problem.
Okay. Come on. Can we see now?
Not yet, Gary. Here we go.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think I'm just going to touch on a few points for Ceramic Industries and probably the wider group, and just share with you where we are as a business and let you know what we have been doing over the last few years. I think what was really inspiring for me is that the information that Melanie's just shared regarding global trends and biophilia. Some of our designers wrote some articles just recently, and it tells us that we really are at the cutting edge when it comes to design in South Africa. By following global trends, we in line with what is going on around the world. So we looked at it a few ways, and we said, from a business perspective, what does going green mean? What does going green mean for our business and for our market space that we're operating in? And I guess we looked at it and said, we have to start looking at environmentally friendly manufacturing opportunities. We have to look at limiting the usage of natural resources. We have to consider recycling and reusing materials and the resources we have available to us. What do we do with regards to harvesting of energy sources? What are we looking at minimizing? How are we looking at minimizing carbon emissions? What are we doing to promote proudly South African products? And then what are we doing to promote products primarily for local consumption? And I guess let me share where we are with regards to that in our business. and we've looked at thinner tiles to ensure that we use less clay. Less clay means less carbon emissions. Less carbon emissions mean a greener environment for our communities that we operate in, and ensuring that our employees have a better working environment around the areas where they live. Now, it's critical for us in that we have 7 local manufacturing facilities in real impoverished areas around our country. So we have a sanitary ware factory and a bath factory in Kagiso, Shamdor, where we employ around about 500 people. We have 3 tile manufacturing factories out in Vereeniging, which covers the Boipatong, Sharpeville, Vannerbale, Old Vaal Triangle area, where it is close on another 400 employees. And then out in the Hammanskraal area, where we have our latest Samka plant, we employ another 200 people from local communities. So it's really important that we have clean environment areas where we operate. That's just from a manufacturing point of view. From a retail point of view, there's over 220 retail stores. And just recently, the last financial year, we invested 500 million rand on solar panels, rainwater harvesting, energy efficient lighting in all the different stores. So we really put our money where our mouth is as a group, and do whatever we possibly can to manufacture in an environmentally friendly way, but also ensure that our products are prepared and offered to our consumers in an environmentally friendly manner with regards to energy efficient lighting and solar panels on the stores. We've made a bold statement and said that we would like to produce, we would like to be a net zero manufacturer and retailer by the end of 2030. So we have 8 years to put that in place. And I guess some of the key areas what we're going to focus on in our business is to start looking at combined heat and energy powers by using Renogen and Renogen gas coming from hydrogen in the floor in the ground in the Virginia area. So instead of bringing in natural gases from Mozambique, we're going to start looking for gas in Virginia, in the Free State, to obviously create local employment, local opportunities, and pipe that gas into our factories out in Vereeniging. So that's recently just been, we started with that project just recently. Another one of our key areas of focus from our putting our money where our mouth is our recent offices out in Vereeniging. We put in 40,000 square meters of rainwater harvesting. 30% of the furniture that we used or repurposed came from 30, 40 years ago of initial investment. We put R1 million worth of labor into our recent offer, into our local office from local communities, from the Boipatong, Sharpeville, Tepees area. R1 million worth of the work was done by the laborers in that vicinity. And then we donated R1 million of the old building material to local schools to see what we possibly can to help out the communities. We have a target that we've put in place as a business to say, let's do whatever we possibly can to reduce emissions and to reduce the wood that we use, to reduce the transport, to get our products around the country. And the Ecotech product has given us that opportunity to do it. So if we just have a look at what has recently been achieved, 50% of our range has been produced on the Ecotech format, and that's reduced the carbon emissions by 15% year on year. It's obviously a phased approach, and we anticipate that on an annual basis we will reduce our emissions by between 15 and 25%. 90% of the raw materials that we use in our products are sourced within 60 kilometers of the factories. We do whatever we possibly can to reduce to reduce the emissions from transport by loading more effectively on trucks. So at the moment we have about a 98.3% loading efficiency with all trucks that are loaded at the factory. And I guess what we're really proud of is that 95% of all the tile packaging material is used from recycled cardboard and recycled cardboard and paper. One thing that is important for us, though, is to ensure that our quality and our standard remains intact. And the thinner tile still ensures that we meet the SABS and the SANS standards for the modulus of rupture rating. And I think a lot of the architects and interiors have questioned this over the last couple of years to say, the thinner tile, what does it mean? So I'm just going to talk through some of the important characteristics when it comes to selecting tiles. And I guess our modulus of rupture for dust pressed tiles, it's the breaking strength of the tile that everybody wants to know. Can the tile, does a tile comply? And the modulus of rupture, as long as the tile on a dust press product between a B1 and a B3 is between 18 megapascals and 30 megapascals, should be sufficient. If the tile is installed correctly, it should be able to last anywhere between 7 and 10 years, and a jumbo jet should be able to land on these tiles. Every single one of our Ecotech product complies with that standard, and that's the Ecotech products from Griffin, Samka Plus, and Pegasus. So we comply with a minimum standard for modulus of rupture. I guess the next thing that the guys are questioning is what about the pay rating or the hardness of the tile, the glaze hardness? All of the tiles still comply with the required pay rating, and generally the products from Griffin and Samka Plus have a pay rating of 4 and high. I've just 4 and a high 4 or low 5. That's where we are with regards to our Samka Plus and our Griffin products. That'll allow you to use the tiles in a medium commercial and light industrial area, or for heavy traffic if it's a pay 5. I think what also is important to know, though, is that when viewing the pay rating of a tile, we have to consider the modulus of hardness of the glaze. And there's a little indicator there to show what is the modulus of hardness on there. So what will scratch the glaze? Is it a fingernail? Is it a nail? Is it a diamond? Is it a rock? And when you look at that in conjunction with a pay rating, you'll find out where the tile can actually be used. So we've spent a lot of money in our factories. We've spent a lot of money on developing Ecotech products. And I'd like to just finish off with a 4-minute clip to show what we've done in the area of Hammanskraal. So this just shows you the industrial area of Hammanskraal. It's a 350 million rand investment in the latest global technology on tile manufacturing. I'm going to keep quiet. I'm going to share the video, and then if there's any questions afterwards, feel free to ask.
Ceramic Industries. Installation of one of the world's most advanced tile production facilities has been finalized in Hammanskraal, Gauteng.
Hi, Gary. We
Ceramic
can see it.
Industries' new Samka Plus plant.
Yeah.
We cannot see the video.
Hold on a second, Johan. Can you see it?
There we go. Thank you.
Installation of one of the world's most advanced tile production facilities has been finalized in Hammanskraal, Gauteng. Ceramic Industries' new Sanka Plus plant features Italian-made Sacmi tile pressing equipment and a new 241-meter-long energy-efficient kiln. As an innovative business with a long-term view on our investments, we decided to get ahead of the game and invest in world-leading technology and machinery. The investment totals 274 million rand and includes the installation of energy-efficient Italian-made Sacmi Continua equipment, production line, and kiln. Conventional tile pressing is achieved by filling a cavity with clay, then pressing it between two punches. The bisque emerges as rectangular or square shapes to a size determined by the amount of clay in the cavity and the size of the die box. By contrast, the new machinery uses technology that's able to form the clay between two large rollers in a continuous feed. The clay is cut to size thereafter. This ensures maximum flexibility for tile dimensions, allowing unlimited lengths, widths of up to 1800 millimeters, and thicknesses of between 3 millimeters and 30 millimeters. This is a first for our group and a first in Southern Africa. Few manufacturers in the world have the ability to produce a red body tile with high quality textures and unrivaled finishes. Sanka Plus will be producing large format floor tiles, responding to a strong preference in the market for the near seamless look that can be attained with these sizes. The initial production will include sizes up to 600 by 600 millimeters in square tiles and up to 600 by 1200 millimeters in rectangular tiles. Production trials on slabs up to 1800 by 3000 millimeters in size are planned, and when these are production ready, they'll be the only South African-made slabs on the market. An inline rectification plant forms part of the manufacturing process, producing perfectly square edges that allow for grouting gaps as small as 1 millimeter, ideal for attaining an uninterrupted design effect. Initial production commenced in September 2021, and from early 2022, Sanka Plus will also manufacture a select range of shiny tiles. State-of-the-art printing equipment will allow for special effects and printed profile finishes. We have ambitious plans to become a producer with zero carbon emissions, so the environmental credentials of any new plant equipment is crucial. By the company's current estimations, the new equipment will result in a 17% saving on electricity and a 21% saving on gas. Part of the efficiencies are won from heat recovery, with hot air directed from the kiln's cooling chimney to the dryer. The continuous production method also reduces clay wastage from 12% to just 3%. However, the aim is to achieve zero waste on clay, and the new machinery allows for 100% recovery for reuse in the milling process. A team of 14 Italian technicians have overseen the process in collaboration with the local Sanka Plus team. Our team members are in a unique position as they have had the opportunity to rebuild and install state-of-the-art equipment that they will ultimately be working with. We have learned new skills from the Sacmi team, enabling us to become the most technologically advanced tile producer in South Africa. The team emphasized the company's track record of successfully reading international design trends and the needs of the local market. We're confident South Africans are going to love these new, high-quality, large-format tiles, made with ecologically responsible methods by a proudly South African company.
Thanks, Johan. That's it from me.
Thank you very much, Gary. We want to say thank you to all our partners that we proudly partners with as Italtile for the presentations, Melanie and Georgina as well. And then just before we end, we just would like to showcase Italtile's also green logo that we present with a small little video of just 2 minutes. And then I just want to say thank you to everybody that attended. Nicole, kindly would you play the video? It's not showing yet.
Is it not showing there, Johan?
It's not showing yet the video.
Okay, I think there's a lag here by the Glen. Give me a moment. If not, I'll include it in the email to everyone. So give me one more chance. Is it presenting now?
We believe that to live beautifully doesn't mean
We hear the sound, but no video.
Okay, Johan, don't stress. What I'll do is I'll include it with our send out of all of our information and recordings. Not a problem.
Well, thank you very much, Nicole. I just want to say thank you to everybody that attended today. We really appreciate your time, and we're looking forward to share more innovative ideas about sustainability in the future with everyone. Thank you to all our guests and our partners. We really appreciate it, and thank you, Nicole, for everything as well.